Hello and welcome to our brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed Nader, and tonight we're going to focus on the latest developments regarding the snapback mechanisms of the sanctions that could be imposed on Iran once again due to the Iranian nuclear projects and the developments that we have seen over the past hours from the E3, Britain, France and Germany, as well as the stance of the United States of America towards Iran. And the upcoming days will unveil what will be happening in this important topic, and we will be shedding more light on the domestic fields as well. However, I'm honored to be having with me over the program in the studio for tonight Dr. Hoda Ragheb Awad, the professor of political science, the member of the Egyptian Council of Foreign Affairs and the National Council for Human Rights. Thank you very much, Doctor, for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Anytime. First of all, we'll be starting with the main top stories that took place for today from Egypt, and with the activities of the Egyptian officials all over the world, as the Shanghai Cooperation Plus Summit will kick off on Monday in the Chinese capital, Beijing, under the title of Pluralism Implementation, Guaranteeing the Regional Security and Reinforcing the Sustainable Development. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli participated in the memorial photo with the leaders of more than 20 countries and 10 representatives of the international organizations scheduled to participate in the summit. Following the photo, Prime Minister Madbouli participated in an official dinner banquet hosted by the Chinese president at the beginning of the summit's activities. During the dinner, the Chinese president stressed that the Shanghai Organization is playing positive roles in dealing with the challenges that are facing the current international system. On behalf of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Prime Minister Madbouli is to deliver a speech before the summit. Doctor, of course, we did see this important topic, the Shanghai Cooperation Plus Summit, with the participation of Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli on behalf of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. How do you see the importance of this visit?
Actually, it's very important because China itself is the premier, partner for in a trade partner. This is very important, and in many projects as well concerning energy industry. So I think this is very important to reinforce the relationship between Egypt and China. Actually, that's a very good thing. I hope it becomes even further, because China and Russia now are our two partners, very important international partners. Yeah.
Yes, Doctor, allow me to be going over the phone with Dr. Ahmed Abd Tawab Sharafuddin, the political analyst and the educational consultant, to be shedding more light on the same topic. Dr. Ahmed, thank you very much for being with us tonight on Nile TV International and the Daily Debate.
Well, thank you, Ahmed. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be with you.
Anytime. The pleasure is all mine. Of course, we did see the participation, and we will be witnessing the participation of Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli on behalf of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi at the Shanghai Cooperation Plus Summit. How do you see the importance of the participation of Prime Minister Madbouli in this summit, and the bilateral ties on the political and the economic levels between Egypt and China?
Very critical, Ahmed. Very significant. The 25th Heads of State Summit of Shanghai Cooperation Organization convened in China from August 31st to September 1st to 2025. This is very critical, and as we watch the news channels today, we can just see how important it is. The event is considered as one of the most significant gatherings of Shanghai Cooperation Organization since its establishment, by the way, in 2001, both in terms of scale and agenda. China described such a summit as the largest in the organization's history, with over 20 heads of state and government in attendance, alongside leaders of 10 international organizations. The central theme of the summit is to shape the blueprint of Shanghai Cooperation Organization's next decade of development, and we can just see discussions cover the critical areas, including economic integration, trade facilitation, infrastructure connectivity, energy cooperation, food security, and collective approaches to combating terrorism. The summit's timing also underscores China's efforts to highlight the Shanghai Cooperation Organization as a central pillar of the multipolar world order, against the backdrop of strained relations between the West and major Asian powers, and I mean here India, China, and so on. Beijing used the summit to emphasize the value of Eurasian-centered multilateralism. The event, complemented by high-profile parade in Beijing, was meant to project Chinese soft power and highlight the Shanghai Cooperation Organization as a credible alternative platform for international cooperation. Now, if you just ask me, Ahmed, about where we are, where is Egypt among all of such international events happening nowadays? I think that Egypt is becoming a dialogue partner of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization since 2022, joining other states from the Middle East and North Africa and beyond, who sought to strengthen connections with Asia's rising multilateral platform. So dialogue partner status provides Egypt with the opportunity to attend summits, ministerial meetings, and working-level dialogue without granting full voting rights or decision-making influence. But I would say that Egypt's participation in the 2025 summit reflects multiple strategic motivations. For example, expanding economic cooperation, as Egypt considers the Shanghai Cooperation Organization as a bridge to deepen ties with Asian economic giants such as China and India, as well as resource-rich Central Asian states. And this includes tax expansion, infrastructure development, and energy partnerships. Ahmed?
Yes, Dr. Ahmed Sharafuddin, the political analyst and the educational consultant. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the daily debate over the phone and heading to the other top story that took place or will be taking place as well for tomorrow on behalf of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, as we did see the participation of Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli in this important summit. In Egypt, the presidential representative to the Group of 20, Ambassador Ragheb El-Itribi, said that Egypt will host an official G20 meeting on the 1st of September. He added that it will be the first time that Egypt organizes a G20 official event since the group was established. The ambassador noted that the extraordinary event will address the regional and the global issues, including food security challenges. He also said that the event reflects the Egyptian growing role in the global economic diplomacy and its effective engagement in the G20 discussions. The G20 brings together the world's largest economies, representing about 80% of the global gross domestic product and 75% of the international trade. Dr. Hoda, how do you see the significance of having this event here?
Tell you, this is it's very significant in a way. It's extraordinary, and the G20, of course, this is, as you have just said, economically speaking, they are the top notch of, I mean, 80%, I believe, isn't it? You have just said.
Yes, 80% of the global GDP.
Global GDP, exactly. So it's extraordinary, and I hope, yeah, and this is, I think, it's a good opening for Egypt to inaugurate such a meeting. I mean, to me, this is very good, excellent event.
Yes, of course, Egypt is not a member of the G20, but what does this say about the potential cooperation between Egypt and the G20 countries for the future?
This is another thing.
Yes.
This is potential cooperation here, and this would help really boost up Egypt's economy as well as trade, and this is something very important to us, by the way. We are not a member yet, of course, because of our GDP, not yet up to the standard,
yes.
But I think that's a very good opening to be.
Yes, we will be heading to the main topic for the daily debate for tonight. First of all, we will be having the first report for the program for tonight, as the E3, France, Britain and Germany have decided to delay implementing the snapback mechanism for the sanctions against Iran. But for how long? We'll be having more details in the upcoming reports, so stay tuned.
France, Britain and Germany set 3 conditions for delaying the snapback of UN sanctions on Iran: cooperation with the IAEA, resuming talks with the United States, and addressing concerns over the high enriched uranium stockpile. France, Germany and the United Kingdom moved Thursday to reimpose United Nations sanctions on Iran over its nuclear program, further isolating Tehran after its atomic sites were repeatedly bombed during a 12-day war with Israel. The process, termed a snapback by the diplomats who negotiated it into Iran's 2015 nuclear deal with world powers, was designed to be veto-proof at the UN and could take effect in a month. It would again freeze Iranian assets abroad, hold arms deals with Tehran, and penalize any development of Iran's ballistic missile program, among other measures, further squeezing the country's reeling economy. The move starts a 30-day clock for sanctions to return, a period that likely will see intensified diplomacy from Iran, whose refusal to cooperate with inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency started the crisis. Iran will also probably emerge as a top focus of the UN General Assembly when it meets next month in New York. Iran's ambassador to the United Nations dismissed the European conditions for delaying the sanctions snapback as unrealistic. Iran has been reluctant to cooperate with the IAEA after the nuclear body issued conflicting statements on Tehran's nuclear program in the lead-up to the 12-day war with Israel. Iran says such statements were a pretext for the US and Israeli bombing of its nuclear sites, and has warned European powers against initiating any sanctions. But the British, French and German foreign ministers suggested that they viewed the snapback as a way to spur negotiations with Tehran. French foreign minister said that this measure does not signal the end of diplomacy. We are determined to make the most of the 30-day period that is now opening to engage in dialogue with Iran. Iran immediately decried the move, with Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi saying it was unjustified and lacking any legal basis, in a call with his European counterparts. The Iranian Foreign Ministry said in a statement that the move by the European countries will gravely undermine its ongoing cooperation with the UN Nuclear Watchdog Agency. The 3 European nations warned on the 8th of August that Iran could trigger the snapback when it halted inspections by the IAEA after Israel launched strikes on Iran, initiating the 2 countries' 12-day war in June. The Israeli attacks in the heart of Tehran killed top military leaders, nuclear scientists and hundreds of civilians.
Welcome back. You're still watching the daily debate. Dr. Hoda, of course, we did see the past report speaking about the snapback mechanism that could be implemented by the E3, Britain, France and Germany against Iran, according to the UN Resolution 2231. What is the snapback mechanism?
The snapback, that means to reimpose again the sanctions on Iran. That happened before 2015, before the agreement, I mean the 5+1 agreement to reduce the increase of uranium, because they don't want to make the uranium come to a point where to be capable of producing a weapon, a nuclear
the enrichment
weapon.
of it.
Of course, enrichment.
Yes.
It's enriching the uranium. You know, up till now, Iran, before the whole thing, before even the war with Israel, was up to 60. And they were so scared because above 60, that means very close to 90 and so on. This is very close for producing a nuclear weapon. That's why they wanted to make sure Iran won't go back to this or not to comply. I mean, non-compliance. By the way, the snapback is, again, making this impose sanctions if Iran is judged non-compliance. If she's complying and she's helping and she is cooperating, very well, nothing will happen. But this is a pressure if Iran refuses to comply.
Yes, Doctor, we have seen tensions growing in the region. I think in June, in July, I think on the 13th of June or in July, between Israel and Iran and the United States afterwards, with the 12-day war that took place here in the region, the U.S. striking some facilities in Iran, Israel doing the same, Iran doing likewise on the other hand.
Exactly.
Why now? What is the significance of the timing now?
Now it's they want. I mean, after U.S. has bombed some of the sites, I mean nuclear sites of Iran, they wanted to make sure that Iran won't go back and continue what the program, the nuclear program, even after being, as U.S. said, they damaged it, but it's they're not sure. Well, it's a mistrust here. I mean, U.S. doesn't trust Iran as well as Iran doesn't trust U.S. By the way.
Yes.
So, and this is, this is a fear of refusing. Iran refuses to comply or refuses this negotiation or table of negotiation because she thinks there is no point for that, and there is, if Iran will sit on the table and negotiate, there should be some guarantees for Iran that the sanctions over Iran, I mean the economic sanctions economic include, you know, not only the financial system or the banking system, but also sanctions over exporting oil, and this is very important. So, and trade as well. So Iran want to make sure that these guarantees, they don't go back on it. That he can now sit freely. On the other side, E3 and U.S. Wants to first, Iran should comply and reduce, and should also cooperate with the International Atomic Energy Agency to examine, to be able to make sure that everything is okay after examination. And that's now each party wants to have its own guarantees. So we don't know where they are going to end or agree on the table. But of course, this is the diplomacy here. This is very important, diplomacy. Rather than going back to something else. Not only the snapshot, but it could be another raid over Iran. Sites, nuclear sites.
The whole situation could be depending on the compliance, as you mentioned, Doctor, of Iran to be going and to be sitting on the negotiating table and to be listening to the demands of the E3 as well as the United States. But on the other hand, you think from the Iranian point of view, is it more about non-compliance to the demands of the other countries Do they have the intentions to be having nuclear weapons, an atomic bomb, or is it more about
Good question.
those countries do not have the right to be interfering within the Iranian?
This is what Iran says, no point of interfering. Why? I mean, Iran is a sovereign country. So there is no point of interfering here. This is one important thing. But Iran also wants to get rid of all the sanctions because Iran has been exhausted from the sanctions imposed on her for the last 2 or 3 decades. By the way, that's why they are also perplexed. I mean, if they want to get rid of the sanctions, well, and maybe also scared of the reimposition on the sanctions,
Yes.
Of the sanctions over Iran. So I guess there should be kind of agreement between the 2 parties. They have to show that they are serious about releasing the sanctions, the EU and US, as well as Iran. And each one should take one step in order to make sure that they can have, they can sit and negotiate, rather than being forced to do that.
Yes. Are the economic sanctions in general really damaging the country's economy, such as Iran? Because we have seen sanctions against Russia, for example, for the past 3 or 4 years, ever since the invasion of Ukraine, or the conflict that is taking place between Russia and Ukraine. Then the negotiations that are still ongoing, there are sanctions against Russia, but it seems that things are going as usual within the country. Is it the same for Iran?
I want to tell you, it's Iran. I mean, I wrote an article on that about how Iran was able to overcome these sanctions for a long time.
Yes.
And because they have, but this is really very exhausting and tiring. People are tired, by the way, Iranian, and they are fed up of that. That's why Iran wants itself to again try to solve the problem and try to to make sure that things will go back to normal, not again to sanctions. Russia is a different story.
Yes.
Russia is a big country in every respect. They can overcome these sanctions, or able to comprehend these sanctions. That's different. That's a different story, by the way. By the way, Iran still capable of fighting. I mean, in Ukraine, fighting not. I mean, Iran is not fighting Ukraine. It's fighting all European countries. Russia.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Yes.
They're fighting against some European countries and the United States.
No, I'm speaking about Russia.
Yes.
Russia
In Ukraine, they are fighting against
European countries as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and come on, it's a big country. And it's a different story. Yeah.
Speaking about Russia and China, they have condemned what is happening in terms of the snapback mechanism from the European countries towards Iran.
And
do they have the power to be blocking those sanctions?
I'm afraid no. Also for political reasons. Each has their own reasons, interests as well, that they want to make sure that these interests are not to be touched for both. China is always trying to be, I take it as not to be open, I mean to make this open enmity with the U.S. And that's why Russia is very quiet, as you see. It's not involved. It doesn't want to involve itself.
Especially now after the meeting between Putin and Trump.
It's still. It's still. When it comes to interests and something that you want to make sure everything goes properly for you, this is this is politics. It's about interests. So with Putin and, now, of course, I want to tell you something. Trump understood that Putin is not an easy like Ukraine or any other country. No.
And he said it, that Russia is a big country, Ukraine is not.
Exactly. Now, it's not an easy. Putin is actually expert. Is an expert, political expert. I say Putin is a fox. So, I think, and you know, Trump understood that for the first time, that he cannot fiddle with things like this.
But this brings me to an important question, because we have seen the atrocities being committed by the Israeli occupation forces, by the Israeli government and the authority, and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for years now, for 2 or 3 years, against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. But there aren't any sanctions that could be implemented, even the idea itself being talked about by the United Nations, by the United States, by the European countries, the E3. They're not speaking about implementing the snapback mechanisms.
Because Israel is backed by the U.S. and that's why no one should touch Israel. No one should come near to Israel in this regard. Israel can do whatever it wants to save its country. It's defending its country, so you can use anything. And this is, you know, this is double standard. By the way, this is the double standard. If any other country does anything else opposite, no, of course. But this is again strange. Even the United Nations cannot even speak about that, sanctions against Israel for, well, what they are doing in, I mean, this is brutal, by the way, what's taking place in Palestine. And these are to be considered war crimes. But no one is coming closer to speak, or to prison. Even the court, the international court, still Trump says no. He wanted to fire even the judges in the international law. And come on, to this extent, yes.
How do you see the stance of the United States regarding what is happening for Iran and the snapback mechanism that could be implemented by the E3 now, especially that Donald Trump was the one who broke out of the deal unilaterally in 2018.
2018, that's it. And that's why Iran says, I mean, U.S. has no point because it's out of the deal. As for Europe, it's okay, but it's U.S., as I keep overlapping Iran with U.S., it's out of the deal. But because U.S. wanted it to happen, and they wanted Iran to comply. And this is as if they are showing for non-compliance, this is what's going to happen again, reimpose sanctions.
Yes, and speaking of sanctions, we'll be heading to the other report of the daily debate for tonight, focusing on the economic impacts of the snapback mechanism on the Iranian economy.
The international spotlight is once again on Iran's economy, as the United Nations prepares for the possible return of sweeping sanctions under the snapback mechanism. Triggered by France, Germany and the UK, the move could reimpose all pre-2015 UN sanctions on Tehran by the end of September. The decision is expected to have far-reaching economic consequences, both inside Iran and across the region. For Iran, the most immediate economic impact would be felt in its oil sector. While U.S. sanctions have already curtailed much of Iran's oil sales since 2018, the reimposition of UN restrictions would tighten the noose further. Shipping companies, insurers, and banks already worry of U.S. penalties would face binding international obligations to hold dealings with Tehran. Analysts warn this could reduce even the limited oil flows Iran still manages, particularly to Asian buyers. Beyond oil, snapback sanctions mean renewed restrictions on banking and financial transactions. Iranian access to international credit, dollar clearing, and the cross-border transfers would face even deeper isolation. making trade settlements far more difficult. This could exacerbate inflation inside Iran, already above 40%, and put further pressure on the national currency. The social cost could be steep. Ordinary Iranians would likely see higher prices for imported goods, further shortages of medicine and essential supplies, and rising unemployment. With nearly 30% youth unemployment, the sanctions risk deepening public frustration at home. Regionally, the ripple effects may be felt in energy markets. While Iran's exports are not as large as they once were, stricter enforcement could push oil prices higher if global supply tightens. At the same time, neighboring Gulf economies may benefit from diverted investment and trade. The coming weeks are critical. Unless a last-minute diplomatic compromise emerges, Iran faces a renewed era of economic isolation under UN law for its people. That could mean another cycle of hardship and inflation with little relief in sight.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I'm honored to be having with me in the studio for tonight over the program Dr. Hoda Ragheb Awad, the Professor of Political Science. And that's it for now. Dr. Hoda, of course, we were speaking about the economic impact of the sanctions by the E3, Britain, France and Germany, against the Iranian economy, especially that this could be a whole new cycle against the Iranian people.
Remember I said they are frustrated.
Yes.
I mean, Iranians are frustrated from already unemployment exists, a reduction of supplies. I mean, for medicine, very important. And I remember also in the first sanctions has been imposed in 2015, even milk for children. Everything was really, it's in a bad shape. So this will return again, as is reimposing this again. The very idea, as I like the point, is that there should be a compromise. That's what I said, a compromise between EU and Iran, not to be that harsh in their implementation, because I don't think Iran will be capable of for another sanctions. So Iran really it's quoted in the middle. It's as a sovereign country, they don't want any interference in their own affairs, political affairs, military affairs as well. But again, they have pressure. The other side can put pressures over Iran. And they did, of course. And that's, I think this is the case now in Iran. I hope there is a compromise between the two parties. This is what I hope for, that EU should show some kind of trust to Iran, or to trust Iran.
Yes.
As for US, it should be away for the time being.
What could be offered by the Iranian side to be returning to the negotiating table and showing that there is a compromise that could be done?
Accept the the examination of the International Atomic Energy Bomb. Accepting. Not to reject them, not to come. Accept them to come and examine.
To be accepting the inspectors, but not the sanctions.
Of course. Yeah.
On the other hand, we have seen, as I mentioned, there was this war between Iran and Israel, and then the United States got involved. How do you think this damaged the future of the Iranian project in the field of nuclear facilities?
This is something also not clear.
Yes.
Not very clear to what extent. Even some of the generals in the U.S. had said they were not that sure, I mean, to what extent we have damaged the nuclear sites. And I think Iran also is hiding, and it's not that open. And it's hiding, of course, and it's right of Iran, the right of Iran to hide. I mean, it's their own business, their own affairs. So I cannot say, because I'm not sure to what extent this has been damaged. Because it said they have moved the uranium and all the uranium particularly, they have moved it, but we're not very sure. I mean, if this happened or not.
But could this war have damaged the possible cooperation between Iran and the International Atomic Energy Agency, the potential of it?
Of course, but still they have to comply. This is the key word, compliance.
Those transactions and those, I would say, the snapback mechanism and the sanctions by the E3 and the United States and the United Nations that we have seen over the past few years, how do you think they have affected especially the oil exports? Because it is one of the major exporters of oil in the world, Iran.
Of course. It's affected very much the oil exports. And this is the first thing I said about oil, exporting oil. Although China, of course, helped Iran in this, because they export oil from Iran.
On the other hand, especially between the Gulf countries and Iran, we do know that there is tension historically between both sides. Do you think what has happened over the past few years and the involvement of the US President Donald Trump in 2018 and nowadays has affected the tensions in the Gulf region once again in terms of being simmering?
Can you repeat again the last part?
The relationship or the bilateral ties between Iran and the Gulf countries. Do you think the involvement of Donald Trump in the middle between those parties, you think it has affected the relationship between Iran and the Gulf negatively?
Well, that's a good question. And Iran is not showing anything so far, by the way. This is not showing. But again, this is the involvement of the Gulf now, Gulf countries, because of Trump wants that to involve them in any case. So I don't think Iran, of course, because there are Shiites in the Gulf and Saudi Arabia. By the way, Saudi Arabia could be the one of those, because countries that Iran is suspecting.
What is the response of the international community, not just a party of the snapback mechanism, the E3, the United States, Iran, the Gulf, the international community? How do you think it could be watching closely what will be happening?
International community, this is a word I used to use it once upon a time. Where is the international community? What's happening in Palestine? Where is the international community in many cases, actually? Even what happened to Iran, the war. Where is the international? I don't know. In the international community has become dead, sorry to say.
Not just for Iran, but as you mentioned, for the Israeli aggression against the Palestinians. Dr. Hoda Ragheb Awad, the professor of political science, the member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs and the National Council for Human Rights. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily
You're
Talk.
welcome.
Anytime. And this brings us to the end of the program for tonight. However, I will be leaving you with the latest presidential activities of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi over the past week, all wrapped up in the upcoming report. Stay tuned. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you tomorrow.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi reviews the overall water situation across the country, including water needs and its availability for agricultural projects and drinking water. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi is briefed on the latest developments pertinent to the construction, modernization, operation and management of ports across the country. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi receives the President of the United Arab Emirates and ruler of Abu Dhabi, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, at Al Alamein International Airport. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed arrives as a cherished guest in his second homeland, Egypt, for a visit that will extend for several days. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi bids farewell to the President of the United Arab Emirates and ruler of Abu Dhabi, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, at the conclusion of His Highness's fraternal visit to Egypt. The visit aims to strengthen the bonds between the two brotherly leaders. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi receives Prime Minister of Lebanon, Nawaf Salam. The meeting is attended by the Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbouli.